Hello and welcome to the Barbican. The LSO are just coming off after a first half which included Shostakovich's violin concerto, which we hope to be able to post on YouTube pretty soon. And they're getting ready for the second half, which is Shostakovich's 10th Symphony. My name's Rachel Leach and I'm going to be with you throughout this interval with some backstage chat and some little things to look out for later on. So Shostakovich's career was completely intertwined with the political situation in Russia, and he got really adept at putting little codes and secret messages into his music to avoid the very strict rules from Stalin. And to tell us all about that, watch this short film with David Owen Norris.
Shostakovich wrote his 10th symphony during the last years of Joseph Stalin's terrifying and murderous dictatorship. Luckily, it wasn't performed until after Stalin's death in 1953, so we'll never know what revenge he might have taken for the second movement, his brutal portrait. Stalin had denounced Shostakovich for a second time in 1948. So unsurprisingly, the symphony was a long time coming, and when it did arrive, quite a lot of it was in code. In those days of informers, when people used to keep cushions on their telephones in case anybody was listening in, you couldn't afford to be too clear about your meaning. If you use the German name for the notes, Dmitri Shostakovich gives you D-S-C-H. Shostakovich hints at this right at the beginning of the symphony. A single line deep in the bass. You hear that ominous texture everywhere in the symphony. And then the violins come in. D-S. And then the clarinet has a tune. At first, it provides the other notes of the motto, C-H. And then it gets stuck on D and A. Now in French letter names, D is Ré and A is La. So we've got an R and an L. Shostakovich waits till the third movement to give us another clue. A solo horn plays again and again. What does it spell? E, and now in French, La, Mi, Ré, and then A again. E, L for La, Mi, A for Ré, and A. El Mira, the name of a student with whom Shostakovich had fallen in love. The composer's own motto is everywhere in that third movement, sometimes scrambled for safety. It begins like this. So that's C-D-S-H. But later on it becomes very clear. D-S-C-H. The C minor context of that movement makes the motto sound sad. But actually it's a symphony in E. E for Elmira, of course. And at the end, Shostakovich shows us how triumphant his motto can sound in that key. Keep an eye on the drummer.
So, time for a bit of a bittersweet interview here, because I'm joined by two legends from the London Symphony Orchestra who are retiring. The LSO has got rather strict retirement policy. People have to leave at 65 whether they want to or not. And here we have Gerry Ruddock, who is the second trumpet, and our principal trombone, Dudley Bright. So how does it feel, Gerry?
Well, it's just amazing, really. It was such a fantastic time being in the orchestra. Dudley and I have been here a long time now, and it's just wonderful, really. I mean, looking back on all the experiences that we've had, it's been absolutely incredible. So it's obviously we're going to miss it hugely, but to just be part of it for a small amount of the orchestra's history is just an incredible honour.
So you've been here 21 years?
21 years.
And you've been here?
17 years.
But you were in the orchestra before, or you had
just
some...
slightly, yes, a long time ago.
And you were telling me earlier that your first experience of the LSO was in a children's concert as an audience member.
Absolutely. When I was 10 years old, just being taken to see that, I didn't know it was the London Symphony Orchestra at the time. I don't think I knew what an orchestra was, but this orchestra, this band, what a fabulous sound. And I later found out that that was the London Symphony Orchestra.
And your teachers were in the orchestra and your pupil?
Yeah, and even at that time, my future teacher, Dennis Wick, was principal trombone. And then he was succeeded by a student of mine in Bousfield, who obviously went on to be principal trombone of the Vienna Philharmonic. And then last, but probably least, I came along.
Wow, and you came because presumably you were part of that legendary section with Maurice Murphy, Rod Franks and Nigel Gong.
I came here in 1997, and I was in another orchestra in London, and I got the opportunity to come here, and really the lure of working with Maurice Murphy, actually, who was an absolute legend, although the other two were great friends of mine, was just too much. He only had 5 years to go at that time before he retired, but we finished up having 10 years together, and it was one of the highlights of my life, along with being with the lot that we've got here now. Philip Cobb's another one, absolutely fantastic. So yes, brilliant. But Dudley and I used to go in the early 70s, we were students together. We used to go, and as Dud says, quite right, we used to go in the Previn days, we used to go to the Festival Hall or wherever it would be and see Andre Previn conducting the LSO, and it was one of the another great highlight. I never dreamt, of course, that I would be here. I don't know about Dud. But
and do you remember your first concert with the orchestra?
Absolute first concert.
Absolute
first
concert.
concert. Yeah, for some reason there was a shortage of trombones on one summer's day in something like 1971, 72, and my teacher Dennis Wick said, would you be able to come and play second trombone in Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony at the Crystal Palace Concert Bowl outdoors. So that was my first LSO concert.
What was your first LSO concert?
Well, actually, it was in 1972 with Bernstein.
Wow.
Mahler 2. I think it was 72, round about then anyway. Can you remember when it was, Dad?
I wasn't there.
Oh, right. About then anyway. So it was fantastic. I was off stage, obviously they needed off stage players. And my teacher at the time was also the principal trumpet here, a chap called Howard Snell, who was also the chairman. And he very kindly asked me to come along and be a guest in the stage band, and that was my introduction to the LSO. I was terrified, remember it.
Were you terrified?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And you're both continuing playing. You've got a lot of concerts coming up, children's concerts, things like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And you'll be around, I'm sure. But what else are you going to do? What is retirement? What does it mean?
Well, I have a really old friend, Maisie Ringham, who used to say, she used to be principal trombone in the LA Orchestra. She used to say, you don't get too old to play, you get old when you stop playing. And I'm going to hang on to that, I think.
So you're carrying on playing?
Absolutely.
And what about you? Yeah,
just a change of direction, a bit of teaching, and any playing that comes my way I shall do. But generally just take a step back a little bit. I mean, I've loved what I've done, and I don't really want it to stop, but the orchestra has a very punishing schedule, and I think I'm ready a little bit to take it just a step back from that a little while. So,
and final question, difficult question, why is this band so special?
It's the family. It's the family. I mean, when I came here when Colin Davis was the principal conductor, and now we've got Simon, and it's been absolutely wonderful. MTT, Andre, all these people. It's always been a special bond, and I do think that the players in the orchestra, it's a really special unit. The bond and the way that everybody sort of gets together and actually gets on with things to a very, very high level. and it's wonderful. Can't really describe it any more than that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, Dudley, is it true that you were the inspiration for an advert in the 1990s?
Oh,
the
you mean
Lurpak man.
I don't know. I've no one's ever told me that, but I understand the name of the trombonist on the Lurpak is Douglas.
Right. But they didn't sort of take pictures of you?
I've never.
If you Google it, it does look. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about.
It was in the 1990s, it was a Lurpak advert, and there was a trombonist who used to jump out of the butter and play and annoy everybody, and it looks very much like this gentleman over here, I have to say. So I understand your family are watching this.
Some of them are here.
Some of them are here, and we've had an email saying that your 5 or 6 year old grandson can stay up, especially if he's been behaving.
Yes.
He can stay up and watch this. So do you want to say anything to him down the camera?
Okay, yes. Elliot, I hope you're behaving. I'm sure you are. And I hope you really enjoy the rest of the concert and look out for Papa.
And you've got a grandson, but maybe too little.
I have, yeah, Jasper. He's only 1, so he's probably sort of just around making a lot of noise somewhere, playing with his toys. So if he were, or if he's watching in the future or anything, hello, Jasper.
Oh, very sweet. Well, I have to say personally that you two have been here, obviously the whole time I've been here, and we've had some fun in schools and at St Luke's and stuff, and I want to just say thank you for being 2 of the nicest people in the orchestra. It's very, very bittersweet today to say goodbye. But I'm sure you're going to be around lots, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. And good luck. Have a lovely, lovely retirement, whatever you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for talking to me. I feel like I should give you a round of applause. I'm sure everybody
of course.
Thank you so much. So, before I tell you about Shostakovich's 10th Symphony, I have 2 short favours to ask. First of all, us at the LSO are committed to bringing you these concerts live and free wherever you are in the world, really, but they come at a cost. So if you could consider giving us a small donation or a large donation, whatever you can give us will go 100% back to these concerts, and we give you huge amounts of thanks. There'll be a message on screen at various points tonight telling you how you can do that. And secondly, we have been, we're very excited because we've been nominated as Orchestra of the Year in the Gramophone magazine awards. We're the only British orchestra in the list, and we're up against such amazing orchestras as the Vienna Symphony Orchestra. So please consider giving us a vote. You can do that online, and you've got until July the 31st to cast your vote for us. It would be a tremendous end to a wonderful season for us to win Orchestra of the Year. So, Shostakovich's 10th Symphony is coming up very shortly. Shostakovich, as I said, his life was completely sort of entangled and beset with these problems that came down from Stalin's awful regime. And Stalin had a list of rules that composers had to follow, all artists did, and if they didn't, they were likely to be punished. So Shostakovich had taken a gap of about 8 years before he wrote this symphony in 1953. He'd been denounced back in 1948. And he said, when this symphony was first performed, that it was all about Stalin, because Stalin had recently died, but probably he'd been working on it while Stalin was still very much alive. It's in 4 movements, as is standard, and it starts with a melancholic, creepy tune from the strings, and that tune, which is in 3/time, sort of pervades the whole of the first movement. Because it's in 3/time, there are some moments of sort of twisted waltz in there, but basically the whole of the first movement is very sad and brooding. The second movement is this visceral portrayal of Stalin. It's fierce, it's mighty, it's terrifying, it's 4 minutes long, and it's a really searing march. The third movement is this movement that David Owen talked about earlier, with the codes weaved within it. So it's the first time we hear Shostakovich's 4-note signature, and that's the theme of the waltz. And then we have this Elmira tune, which is first played by the horns. You'll hear Elmira 12 times during this movement as the 2 themes move closer together. Elmira was a student that Shostakovich was infatuated with. It didn't really come to anything, and that's foretold in the music when we hear the Elmira theme alongside a tolling funeral bell. And then the last movement is made up from a rather naive theme which takes on lots of different characters. It begins in that dark, brooding place, and it ends triumphant, ecstatic, a sort of scream of joy. Stalin has by this time died. Shostakovich's 10th Symphony is a fantastic work. It's a particularly good one if you've never heard any Shostakovich, because it has all of his signature traits. So it's got the twisted waltz, it's got the searing march, and then it's got beautiful writing for strings and beautiful solos for members of our woodwind section. So that's coming up after this interval, and it marks the end of our Barbican season, a season which began with our 10-day festival, This Is Rattle, back in September, which actually feels like it was just a couple of days ago. We don't all go off on holiday now, though. We've got another stream for you next week on the 1st of July, coming live from Trafalgar Square, and concert at Tate Modern a few days before that, and then there'll be a prom and all kinds of education activity coming up in the next 10 days. But from us here at the Barbican, we're going to wish you a really happy summer, and we hope to see you again in September. Goodbye.